my early childhood, I grew up in a regular American family,
Mhm.
maybe a little louder than usual of an American family,
Italian American.
Italian American family.
Very
Oh,
loud.
So yeah, quite loud, quite eccentric personalities.
Um,
But I grew
so I also, my family's also Italian American, and so they're quite the crew. I'm one of four children. I'm the second oldest. It's my
okay.
sister, myself, my two younger brothers,
Mhm.
and my parents. Actually, that's one thing we have in common is both of our parents are still together. In the US, believe it or not, that's not so common. It's like
Yeah.
75%. My family was really confused because I met the devotees, specifically him, and I
Mm.
started wearing tilak, but I was working on my parents' farm. I would like train horses. They'd be like, why are you in our business with this stuff on your face? Like, why do you need this? Why can't you just blend in? Why can't you just
became
be
a bit
normal?
of a more debaucherous human being at one point in my life. I started exploring a lot in high school with, you could say drinking, and then marijuana, and then in college, more psychedelic type of things,
Mm.
really mind-altering substances, or interestingly enough, these were the type of people who first took to Krishna consciousness in America when this kind of went all over the
And
world.
what was the spark basically? How did you motivate towards that side?
Very long stories.
Yeah, it's a lot of things have happened in my life. I mean, you could say in many lives to get to this point. But when I was a kid, being spiritual, left some scar, an impression in my consciousness, to do so. But naturally,
Has to be done.
uh, you
Um,
know,
but we have seen this idea of Prabhupada's like simple living, high thinking. When you simplify your desires and you simplify your living arrangements, you simplify your life, you have so much more time and you have a lot less responsibility because a lot of it you're just taking on uh, out of
I
unnecessary
don't think we would have a
circumstances
very
just because.
successful relationship if it wasn't for our spiritual practices. I mean, I could say for a fact we wouldn't have gotten married as quickly as we did. Who knows if we would have even gotten married at all? Especially because I was committed when I met her that I wanted someone who was going to walk a spiritual path with me,
Interestingly enough,
and she.
how I found the devotees, and I guess you could say how I found officially Krishna, was
Mhm.
through my husband. He was the first devotee that I met.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Mhm.
and I had read the Bhagavad Gita prior to knowing him. And I liked Krishna and Arjuna and all these things, but I didn't really understand. I was in college and I was partying and playing soccer and very much distracted.
Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to our channel Spiritual Talk by TT. I am truly honored to be here today, addressing all of you and engaging in this meaningful discussion with a beautiful couple, Ramdas ji and Sita Devi Dasi ji with me, who has joined us all the way from New York, USA. Both are devoted Krishna followers, and I have always been deeply inspired by the spiritual journey of Krishna devotees. I am excited to delve into the life journey of both Ramdas and Sita Devi Dasi ji and explore their experiences to better understand the profound connection they share with Lord Krishna. So, without any further delay, let's warmly welcome Ramdas ji and Sita Devi Dasi ji to our talk show. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for
So
having us.
straight away, yeah, thank you so much. And now let me just start with the my first question to you. It's very straightforward question. Can you tell us about your early childhood, your family background, and your educations, etc., so that people can relate it? Because walking this path from your material life is not easy, right? So if you tell me something about our childhoods and background of your family.
Which one first? We have two of us.
Okay. So I don't know. Anyone can take up, and or
Choose your question,
either
I'll go.
one can answer. That is fine.
Okay, I will go first.
Yeah.
So my early childhood, I grew up in a regular American family. Maybe a little louder than usual of an American family.
Italian American.
Italian American family.
Very
Oh.
loud.
So yeah, quite loud, quite eccentric personalities. But I grew up also in the country of New Jersey, which was very close to Pennsylvania, so out in the country, and it was a really nice type of childhood. I didn't appreciate it much. But I was just a regular American boy. I played sports. I did what everyone else did, video games, and we would go do all kinds of mischief and things like that. And yeah, it was by and large good. I did have a spiritual connection from childhood.
Oh.
I was so that's maybe I think going to be another question, so I'll save it. But I was raised Roman Catholic, and that was part of my education, you could say. But yeah, I just went to school with everyone else, and it was all fine and good. You know, I had fun, made a lot of friends, and yeah, we were just like regular. I mean, I'm not sure if you're too familiar with Americans, but we were just at least I had a kind of a pretty regular American childhood for the most part.
Okay.
And you?
Sita Devi ji.
So I also, my family's also Italian American, and so they're quite the crew. I'm one of 4 children. I'm the second oldest. It's my sister, myself, my 2 younger brothers, and my parents. Actually, that's one thing we have in common is both of our parents are still together. In the US, believe it or not, that's not so common. It's like 75% in divorce. So that's a big thing. But I grew up on a horse farm, actually. It's my family business. We have about 65 horses on the property.
Oh.
It's a 120-acre property. So it was quite fun, actually. I rode horses from the time I could like walk. But I was competitive by the time I was 4, jumping. And at one point I switched over to play polo, which is like when you're on the horse with a stick. And I did that competitively throughout high school.
Yeah.
You know, so most of my childhood was outside with my siblings and the other kids at the barn. I spent a lot of time on the farm riding. We did 4-wheeling, sledding, all like outdoor activities. It was really sweet. And it was very competitive. I played a lot of sports, soccer, softball, lacrosse, all these things.
Oh, great.
My family's his family too, they're all really into sports, especially football. So they engaged us all in that way. And education, I went to Montessori school young, which is kind of like a private school. And then I just went to public school, and then college, and I played soccer in college. Yeah, I mean, I could go a lot more into detail, but it's not so important.
Okay, great. So when you say Italian American family, so means mother or father Italy, or how it is?
Less direct.
Yeah, we're
like 3rd generation or something.
Yeah, like their ancestors.
Oh,
like
okay.
Maybe maybe like we're like 3 or 4 generations in, but we're
our
pretty
families,
much just like Americans.
They like to hold on to it, like with the pasta and the traditions and the jokes, and they like to hold on to it.
There's some culture, some tradition there, but it's pretty much like the Italian American thing. It has really nothing to do with Italy at this point.
Okay, all right. Great. So asking this question is, I mean, your family background was little bit on the religious, or they believe on spirituality and all, or you came from your family later part of it? But Ramdas ji, you said from childhood you are into the spirituality.
Yeah, well, there was something there. you know, even my especially my father, his spiritual, he was the spiritual one in our family. Actually, I wouldn't have been born unless he had a spiritual awakening. He would actually have not even married my mom as early as he did without having a pretty profound spiritual experience he had. I kid you not, in a sausage shop, which is a really interesting place to have a spiritual experience. But he met, you could say, like a guru in the Christian lineage who baptized him in the Holy Spirit, you know, and he felt like a, you know, a really powerful spiritual connection. And it was a really hard time for him because his father actually died in a really unexpected and pretty traumatic way for the family. So he was searching for something. And so yeah, there was that. So when we were kids, we were emphasized that we had to go to church, we had to believe in Jesus. But
I played sports.
and
Right?
yeah, you know, so like when we played sports, you know, I played baseball was probably my main sport. Whenever I would go up to, you know, hit the ball, I had to, I didn't have to, but it was
Your dad
instilled in me to like pray to hit
Okay.
the ball, you know, so I would do the sign of the cross as like a
Yeah.
thing.
You'll see professional
So
baseball players do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this was a thing that I did, and but you know, I pretty much the idea I had of God was that if you pray to him, he'll give you whatever you want. And so not a very sophisticated
He's like a
you know,
wizard in the sky.
idea, you know, like the magical wizard in the sky who's ready to grant all my wishes. All I have to do is pray. But I learned throughout my life that wow, this guy's not, he's not giving me all my wishes, you know. So I had a lot of problems with religion eventually too.
Okay.
Um, so we can get into that later. But in my childhood, I really did believe, you know, pretty wholeheartedly. But just you could say, and you know, even my dad nowadays, he would not give me the same advice that he gave me when I was a kid. He really has grown in his spiritual tradition. Where actually, just last Sunday, he got rebaptized again in a new church that's in my family's town. So you could say he is, you know, he's definitely taken it more seriously since then. But he, you know, they did the best they could with
Yeah.
what they had.
Okay. All right. So, moving to the next question. So, it is in your shared journey as a Krishna devotee, how do you find that your individual spiritual path and practices complement and support each other? Are these specific aspects of your devotion that you feel are enhanced by being a part of devotee couple?
Did you want her to share her
Yeah.
spiritual background? I
Okay. So, what I am trying to ask, in your shared journey, you both Krishna devotees, how do you find that your individual spiritual path and practices complement and support each other? Are there any specific aspect of your devotions that you feel are enhanced by being a part of devotee couple?
you go first.
Um, yeah, well, actually, interestingly enough, how I found the devotees, and I guess you could say how I found officially Krishna, was through my husband. He was the first devotee that I met.
Oh, okay.
And I had read the Bhagavad Gita prior to knowing him. And I liked Krishna and Arjuna and all these things, but I didn't really understand. I was in college and I was partying and playing soccer and very much distracted. But I had met him and I saw Bhagavad Gita on the table. He was working at a restaurant. There was a festival, had a table. And I picked up the book and he yelled across the tent, "That book will change your life." And I was like, okay, all right.
Okay.
And I already knew the book. I read it, you know, but this was a different version. I was just attracted. So I picked it up. And then a few weeks later, I didn't read it. I didn't open it. But a few weeks later, I went to the restaurant that he worked at, this prasadam kitchen that was also trying to be a yoga studio. And so I went to do yoga because I was also practicing yoga. And he was teaching and it was just him and I. And he was preaching Krishna conscious philosophy and playing the harmonium and teaching yoga, and I was just really attracted by the philosophy, and I was searching at that point. But since then, because of that, like, he was kind of my introduction to Krishna consciousness, you know. So he's very much like that that plug, like, for me, like, to my bhakti, like, directly, you know. So while I have my own individual service and everything to Krishna, which is, I would say, mostly through cooking services at the ashram specifically, it's my main service, as well as, you know, kind of organizing and cleaning, and then also taking on mentoring women in Krishna consciousness. Our services complement each other, you know. Like, for the ashram, every morning program, he's offering arti. I'm setting the arti plate before. I'm cleaning the arti plate after. He's reading and teaching the students. I'm cooking prasad for the students and serving them. And then, you know, and so it's like, without each other, it's just not complete. With each other's service together, we can serve Krishna and I complement each other in that way. And so many other ways too, but that's, I feel, the most basic example.
Great. So that's the okay, you want to add something?
Well, I was just gonna say it's the center of our relationship. Like, I don't think we would have a very successful relationship if it wasn't for our spiritual practices. I mean, I could say for a fact we wouldn't have gotten married as quickly as we did. Who knows if we would have even gotten married at all. You know, especially because I was committed when I met her that I wanted someone who was going to walk a spiritual path with me, and she wanted to. And really, it's Krishna first, and then our relationship second, and that actually makes our relationship way better than if we tried to put our relationship first and Krishna second. And so yeah, when times get hard, it's nice because we have you know, great relationship counselors via the Shastras, you know, Krishna's instructions, and our gurus and teachers' instructions via the Shastras are always kind of guiding us and able to solve very complex issues that, yeah, I don't think any others who don't have that guidance are going to have. So yeah, it's really been the center, and it's been the saving grace, and the thing that's moved this relationship forward and strengthened it. And yeah, we're like, I don't know how we're like always together, like always together, like even like
24/7.
almost 24/7, which is very rare, you know, we find even for Krishna devotees. But yeah, it works out really nice. We do almost everything together, and sometimes it's healthy if we're like in separate places doing stuff. But you know, we're always checking in, and Krishna's the center. And yeah, I don't think our relationship would be very good at all if it wasn't like that.
Yeah. So my next question is very practical questions. Balancing a spiritual life with everyday responsibilities can be challenge. How do you both navigate your daily lives while keeping Krishna at the center of your relationship? And how does this mutual devotion strengthen your bond as a couple? Anyway, some part of it you have already answered, but in your day-to-day life you have some other responsibilities as well, right?
Yeah, we're just both smiling because we're like, our whole life is
That's right.
but you can share maybe.
Yeah, for me there's not much separation, you know. There's other responsibilities. I mean, we have a unique service. Actually, you had a guest. Your last guest, the video you sent me, was Keshava Gopal Das.
Okay.
Keshava Gopal Das actually is he is the owner of the house in which we do our main preaching efforts from.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that.
I don't know if you knew that, but we thought it was quite interesting that he was your last guest. But anyway, he owns the house in which we pretty much run the preaching center. Now, part of our, you could say, material responsibilities, you know, we have to, pay certain bills like
Yes.
car and things like that. A lot of things are actually covered
Yeah.
just by doing
Yeah.
the preaching work that we're doing. Um, but we have like car bills, and we have to, save for the future. We are a couple. We have to utilize money. We buy our own food. We cook for ourselves. And, so we have to make our living. We run Airbnbs out of the home to help finance our lives as well.
Mhm.
And make sure that the project isn't directly paying us, and we're not like taking and taking and taking, so um,
How do you balance that?
yeah, how do you balance all these things, you could say? Honestly, for me, and this isn't an unfounded, like, oh, I made something up. It's the recommendation I've heard is to focus mainly on your spiritual practices, and you'll have the insight how to deal with all the material things that also will come.
Mm.
So that's pretty
Seekers
much,
seeking.
yeah, I mean, this is even a Christian teaching, this,
Seeking.
I know the verse, but there's a verse in Matthew that it explains not to worry about food, not to worry about shelter, not to worry about all of these things, and Jesus goes on saying that, God gives all these things to all the animals and the sparrows and the flowers in the fields. So does he not, does he not, love you at least as much or more? And he says, don't worry about these things, and it's seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things shall be added unto you. And similarly in Bhagavad Gita, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, it's abandon all forms of religion or all forms of dharma and just surrender unto me. So that means all the material duties of varnashram dharma, you just really, when you take this teaching deep, you kind of abandon all of that as the main consideration. And instead, what do? You just surrender your life unto the Lord. And so we try to do that. And yeah, it works. It works really nicely where even when I am about to let a material thing slip through the cracks, Krishna will send someone to help me, like, kind of remind me when I need to be reminded. And like, oh, and just so many things have kind of sorted themselves out that,
Things have fallen away.
yeah, or fallen away, or just unnecessary things anymore. So pretty much, yeah, the distinction between material and spiritual things is, it's definitely getting less and less as we take on this process. But yeah, I would recommend just for anybody who'd like that to happen for them, just to focus more on the spiritual things, and the material things kind of do really sort themselves out. Krishna is that's his one of his great benedictions, is that he never lets the devotee perish
Yeah.
in any way.
But even on like a more like day-to-day basis, like, yeah, we do focus more on our spiritual lives now. That wasn't always the case. But we also have, we follow Prabhupada's program. Prabhupada's program was Mangal Arti. The devotees are up, they're doing their prayers, they're doing their rounds. You're getting up early, so before you have anything to do in the day, you're chanting, you're doing your spiritual work. And at some point in the day, we both have responsibilities, like some point in the morning, we have to, he does a lot with communication, so he has to be on his phone or on his laptop. I have a lot to do with the Airbnb and the cooking. So, there's time blocks of the day that we do dedicate to what you could say our material, but they coincide, not that they're
Yeah.
separate, but that to our duties, that has to be done. But we have seen this idea of Prabhupada's like simple living, high thinking. When you simplify your desires and you simplify your living arrangements, you simplify your life, you have so much more time and you have a lot less responsibility, because a lot of it you're just taking on out of unnecessary circumstances, just because of desires that are accumulating more and more and more, and then
Yeah.
maintenance, maintain more, you have to do more, you have to go more places. So if
Sure.
you can just kind of minimize that, and that happens naturally through chanting and meditation and being around the devotees and things like that.
Agree. And
Yeah, agree.
moving to the next questions, which is when did you started Krishna Bhakti journey? I mean, specifically Ramdas ji, you as you said, you are a sports person, you playing and you went to college, your student life also you have done, though you have the some sense of spirituality from your background, Christian background, and you faith on Christianity, that is a different story, but you have a sense of that. But when did you start, actually you both specifically, the Krishna, this Krishna conscious journey? And what
Uh,
was the spark basically? How did you motivate towards that side?
Very long stories.
yeah, it's a good lot of things have happened in my life. I mean, you could say in many lives to get to this point. But when I was a kid, being spiritual, left some scar, an impression